we're too sporadic with our conversations. We're like
Yeah.
all over the place. So now we're going to have that conversation. Since you brought it up, this is now your topic, and we're going to talk about what else do adults do in public that we like have never seen before. Because I will tell you this, like, I'm aware of certain things that I do inside my house, right? Like, I'm aware that I do them, and I'd be willing to tell you what it is, but I don't want to. And my biggest thing is, because I do it so often in my house,
You have to tell. What is it?
I've started asking myself, oh my God, do I do this in public? Like, how do I not turn it off?
Because it's unconscious. You're saying you just do it, and
yeah, I'm wondering. Yeah.
But what is it?
I'm not gonna tell you.
Picking your nose?
No. I do that, but I do that. Mostly I get a Kleenex and blow my nose because it's easier. Yeah. No, okay, so but I'm like, but I do notice like people do things. And one of those things that I've noticed recently, and I realize that this is social media's problem, is we've discussed this, is the women that like spend time like perfectly
manicuring.
I'm like, holy fuck, it's not going to get any better. Move on is really what I want to say. I mean, like, and they will do it for 10 minutes, just literally. And I'm like, what are you doing? It's not, what do you see that we are not seeing? Because you're just obsessing over every strand of hair and I'm like, wow, this is what we spend our time on as a nation.
Yeah.
Right. But I guess, like picking your nose,
it was so gross.
You know what? There's something you do all the time. It is not gross, so don't worry about it. But it's just something you do. And I was like, I wonder if she notices if you ever go back and watch it, because you're always doing this.
Yeah, I do that.
Your hair's shorter. So but you're fluffy. And I was just like, stop doing that. My friend Kim across the way, always rubbing her eyes, constantly rubbing her eyes because she's got allergy issues. And then there's one where I'm like, knock it off. Stop rubbing your eyes. And I'm like, I feel like her mother, because why am I bothered by it? Although I've learned you're not supposed to rub your eyes, right? Isn't that the one thing we learned as children?
And from COVID.
Yeah. Don't leave your face like that, or it'll be like that. Don't make that face, or it'll be like that forever. And don't rub your eyes. So she's constantly rubbing her eyes, and I'm constantly shouting at her. And finally, the other day, she's like, I'm gonna rub them. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, I don't have control. They're your eyes. I gotta let it go. That's, I'm learning. You gotta let go of people's habits. They're gonna do them.
They have tics. People have tics.
Yeah, right. And we should be more accepting of those tics, because we all have them.
We all have them.
Except for this one. This one I can't handle. I mean, like, leave your hair alone.
I will say, like, I move my hair a lot too, because mine gets in my face.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like, even now I can see this, like,
yeah,
unless I have it pulled back, it's just
but you're doing it to get it. I mean, like, and I do recognize that it is my problem, not their problem, right? Like, I'm fully willing to reckon. Now, picking your nose and flicking it in a public place.
Oh, it was disgusting.
Or scratching your hoo-ha.
I feel like men, and I am super generalizing in this statement, I just feel like men are really gross when it comes to certain things. Like, clearly not all men, but like, how many men have you seen move their junk?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Where they make adjustments. It's like, really? You don't see us like moving our tits? I mean, sometimes once in a while you'll see a woman do something like make a little teeny, but it's not like a full on
Actually, they're adjusting their bras, maybe, but rarely is someone reaching in and adjusting.
Yeah, like men adjust. And even when we were just in Nashville, like, I was standing outside of the hotel waiting for an Uber, and I watched this guy literally just walk up to the side of the building and pull his pants down and pee. I mean, I
Wow.
was slightly envious. I'm like, it would be so lovely to be able
Wouldn't
to
that
do
be
that.
great?
It's like the only thing I've ever been envious of with being a man, and just having more privilege and getting paid more. But
Yeah.
um it was, I didn't need to see that. And it was a
No.
busy street, and he did it right on the side of the street. It wasn't like he kind of pulled into a corner. I'm sure he was intoxicated.
Oh, okay. Because
Just
I
like,
mean, like, although the other day, because I always joke about the neighborhood I live in. I was at one of there's two banks right over here, and I was at one of them. It was a woman. She walked up to the side of the building, leaned against it, and squatted. And this was on Maryland Parkway, by the way, a major street in town. Some people just don't care.
I mean, one, there aren't easy access to toilets, right? Like on the street, and we are humans. Like when you have to go, you have to go, like unless you go in your pants. But it's like, I mean, that's part of it. There needs to be easier access to public toilets. Like,
Yeah, because there's a lot of businesses that have bathrooms, and they're like, and I understand why. Because like my bar right around the corner, you have to be a customer to use their bathroom because they get a lot of homeless people that come in and they spend 3 hours in the bathroom. Literally.
right. But then it's like, where are homeless folks supposed to go if they don't have public bathrooms to use?
No,
I'm not saying they should loiter or hang out in there for 3 hours. Like clearly that's not okay. But
well,
like,
that is where they're doing their drugs because that's where they need that. I mean, I get why he doesn't like it, right?
yeah,
As a business owner, I understand. But yeah, what can we provide an alternative in some
yeah.
way? Because it's also right across the street from the Boulevard Mall, which is like this massive parking lot with no cars in it. And in Portland, they used to have these like portable shower bathroom scenarios that they'd move around for homeless encampments. I'm like,
Oh, see, that's so lovely.
let's put up a few of those, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like people talk about see, now look what we just did. We just switched topics right there. This is what makes it so hard, my friend. But let's talk about the homeless then. This will be our official of homeless topic. Is we talk about homeless problem, and we use that term problem.
Unhoused.
Unhoused, whatever.
Homeless is much different.
I'm just saying there's people that do not have a roof over their head.
Well, that's part of the problem. Is one of the things I learned when I did some volunteer work for a homeless organization. The majority of homeless actually have housing. Like they're people who live on their neighbor's couch, at a cousin's house. They actually do have housing. It's just not their own. It's not their, they live with friends, family, whatever. Yeah. It's unhoused people. So you can be homeless.
Okay, I hear you.
Right. And most unhoused people are homeless. So there's like these two blankets. But the only reason I'm correcting it is because the way that those populations are addressed are different. Right. Because for most homeless people, it's a matter of affordable housing. Like the majority of homeless actually have jobs, which is the really scary part.
Right.
Unhoused.
I mean, that's going to be me one day, maybe. Honestly.
Me too, any of us. I mean, that's what's scary is we don't have a system in place that supports people transitioning or going through financial struggles. Like we don't have safety nets and people fall through the cracks.
People that work hard. So, but okay, wait, you said you were volunteering for an organization.
So a lot of the work that this particular organization did was really trying to help homeless, but they also had outreach for the unhoused. So they really approached the two populations very differently. For example, with people who were homeless, they would try to find them affordable housing, better paying jobs, get them different benefits that maybe were available to them. where unhoused people were a lot of the people that we think of as homeless, right? Like they're junkies, they're not really looking for jobs, they don't have jobs, there's a lot of mental health. So it's like the issues that were surrounding those two different groups, even though they may overlap and there may be some similar, I just thought it was always interesting that the approach to these two different groups was just a little different.
Which I get it, and I get it because, well, because I'm not a junkie, right?
No, of course
And
not.
I'm not gonna be. It's not something that I'm into. I'm into other things, not into drugs. I like music, right? But I don't want to live on the streets. But I did just say to my sister, I'm like, well, I do have a car. I can live in my car. The girls would not love it. I could. But what I'd rather do, I'm taking other steps, obviously. I mean, I have a job I'm applying for jobs that are up I'm not doing nothing. Don't misunderstand me. But I'm a planner in a lot of ways, and I want to have a plan. Like I like to have a plan in place. And that's one of the things that I was thinking of is I'm in a position that a lot of people aren't. I have a sister who's, willing to help me out, and that's great, but not a lot of people do. And I say, as an individual person that lives in this society, right? I do care about that other person. And they're not there because they're horrible people. And even if they were, so I'm always telling people, like, people are like Money Shot, or even the most hated men on the internet. Like, one of the things was, well, they should have never taken those photos of themselves to begin with. And I'm like, that is not the issue here. I'm like, people do things all the time. We make wrong decisions all the time.
All the fucking time.
That doesn't make us bad people. It doesn't mean we suffer horrible consequences because of it, because some other asshole has decided to torture. I'm like, I don't get the thought process. Well, did they? Blah, 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 blah. Even if they did.
Yeah, they'd love to make excuses for it.
Yeah. Wow. I'm just like, yeah, it was funny. That was a theme, even for a woman that she was doing some podcast interview in the movie, and she's like, well, it serves them right. They should have never taken those photos and send them out. What can you expect? And I'm just like, so are you saying if you pick the house on the corner of a street, you should expect someone to run their car through it? It was your fault because you picked that house?
Yeah, it's very short-sighted. In fact, like I was listening to this podcast earlier today that I thought was really interesting. It was about they're doing this whole series on the Seven Sins. And what was the one today they were talking about? It'll come to me, but they shared a story this guy wrote in, and he was talking about how he was accosted in London, I believe, with the person with the machete, and was robbed, and it was two people, and they like cut his arm. He had to go into surgery and this and that, but he came out and he was like, I wasn't angry or mad at the people. He's like, I immediately thought, like, what happened in their lives that they've come to this where they're robbing people with a machete.
Yeah.
And had a lot of empathy, right? And instead of revenge or wanting to get back, and he said, my friends and family were a lot more angry than I was. And they talked about on the show how people who have empathy, or like if you're grateful, because this guy's whole thing was like, I was just grateful to be alive. I was grateful that I wasn't the other guy that they attacked. They did find the people, and now they're going to prison, but he was like, somebody lost their eyesight, somebody, like, other things happened. And so he's like, I was just so grateful that my friends and my family were there and who could support me, like seeing that bright side and having that network. And a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah.
And like, all I kept thinking, listening to it, is like, if we had more empathy for people, maybe we wouldn't have revenge or have these ideas of wanting to get back, or even having horrific thoughts about people, like
Yeah.
wanting them to go on death row. And, the whole idea of revenge is kind of like it's just perpetuating the problem.
It is. And even someone like me who is aware of it, I have moments where I think, and I'm not going to say revenge because I don't want to go after these people myself, but I often term it as justice. And I'm very pro justice, and then I see the flaw in justice, right? I'm hell bent on justice, and then I'm like, it's a tough word, because again, it's humans seeking justice, and that's fallible people imposing justice on fallible people, right?
That's going to be our next topic, is justice. But can we pause for 2 seconds just because I really have to pee?
Oh my God, of
Speaking
course.
of homeless, like sleeping, like peeing on the street. So give me 1 second.
Don't do that. Yeah, I have a little bucket right here. Yeah.